Young me versus the big fish.
Today I'm joined by Emma Cleo, aka Frank's mum. She'll be telling us all about Frank's named fund and how the money raised in his memory supports families facing childhood cancer. A warm welcome to Emma, who's joining me on the podcast today.
Hello, lovely to be here.
We are happy to have you in Ladybird HQ for this podcast today.
It's my first visit, so I'm honoured.
So, named funds, how did you come to learn about them? Because Be More Frank is a named fund of the Grace Kelly Childhood Cancer Trust.
The whole Be More Frank thing just happened I've probably said this to you before, it was just so organic, it's just kind of happened. It certainly wasn't something we were searching for. We at Frank's funeral, people said, oh, what do we do with donations? I'd never really understood that concept, but people wanted to obviously give a donation. There was no point really in flowers. I did ask him about flowers before he died, and he just looked at me like,
what are you on about?
What? So, there was no need for that. So people wanted to chuck a few quid towards a good cause. So I said, we'll put it towards the Grace Kelly Childhood Cancer Trust. They've been really supportive and lovely, and Jen's been really great throughout Frank's illness. Let's just do that. That'd be a really lovely thing to do. And then after Frank's funeral, I can't even remember what it was. There was a certain donation made, and that was that. And just through general conversation with Jen, it was floated. Jen's always very, very much no pressure. You only do this if it's right for you. There's no expectation. We're really grateful for the donation. Have you thought of this? It is an option, but that's all it is, just an option. And just something in me very, very quickly wanted to essentially help people in the same position that we were in. Because when Frank was ill, I remember the first few months sort of saying, I don't want money because my kid's ill. No. And then you realise it's really expensive. Your earning power is limited. And people did raise money, and I'm really incredibly grateful that they did, as well as the support from the Grace Kelly Childhood Cancer Trust. And that's what kept us going really financially, because I stopped working immediately and I was self-employed. So anyway, long story short, we very quickly, I don't think I even really thought about it, to be honest. It was a no-brainer from our perspective.
And, you've gone on to raise over £100,000 in total over that period of time. What is the exact? It was 130 when I last saw.
We're on 183 something now. I think I can tell you the exact amount, but 183 something. Ideally, love to reach 200 by the end of the year, but we'll see how we get on with that.
All of that money that you've raised, does it go to something specific?
It does. It's very specific, I think. So essentially, it provides grants to the family of every single child with cancer in the 6 counties that we cover, which are Herefordshire, which is where we're from, Worcestershire, which is obviously one of the surrounding counties, Powys, because we're on the border of Herefordshire and Powys, Ceredigion, which is just the other side of Powys, which is where Frank's nana and granddad live, where Frank spent loads of time, and Monmouthshire and Gloucestershire. Is that 6?
Yes, I think it is.
Right, yes. Well, it does that then. So the grants aren't means tested. They're not difficult to access. You don't have to jump through a lot of hoops, or any hoops really, to get one. Every family is entitled. It's that straightforward.
And what kind of things would newly diagnosed families use that money towards? Just, I think a lot of people who are lucky enough not to have been affected by childhood cancer probably don't fathom all of these additional costs that suddenly are imposed in your life, as well as the physical health situation. So what kind of things would families use that grant money for?
Well, essentially, this is sort of half answering your question and half not. When we decided we wanted to help, we've been round the houses several times, actually, about what sort of help, how do we help, what can we do, what's most effective. And we have very quickly each time come to the conclusion that every family is different and every family has different needs. Therefore, giving them the grant means they can spend that money on whatever is their priority at the time. But to give an idea, the additional costs when your child has cancer, well, if either parent, if it's a 2-parent family, is self-employed, well, that's very difficult, because I think every parent wants to spend every moment they can by their child's bedside, and there are very, very long hospital stays. Frank and I pretty much lived in hospital for 10 months, and that was just for the chemo. And we were in and out, but 10 months of very long inpatient stays. And then there were surgeries and so many other appointments besides that, like so many. So essentially, I realised within a few months that I couldn't really be working and looking after him. So that our household income dropped, halved. And then my husband also was effectively self-employed at the time. His hours dropped because obviously he wanted to be with his child. Besides that, there's fuel to hospital and back. There's hotel bills if the other parent wants to stay. There's lots of things, just like when your child loses a lot of weight from chemotherapy, they're cold all the time, so you need more heating. You don't have time or brain power or energy to mow the lawn, clean the house, walk the dog. So all of those, life keeps happening. But in your world, life really isn't happening. Everything's on hold. So yeah, just imagine one parent sort of taken out of the picture because you want to be with your child all the time. It's but life keeps happening, and the bills need paying and all of those things.
And it's just that sort of additional arm of support during one of the worst things that you'll ever go through in life, isn't it, as a family?
Yeah.
The money can't, like you say, stop what's going on, but it can make it a slightly smoother ride in other aspects of life. It still needs to keep going and keep moving forwards.
Yeah, I'm very passionate about when your child's diagnosed with cancer, nobody really can help, because obviously, it's just down to the treatment and all the rest of it. But I'm passionately believe that one thing that the family shouldn't be worrying about is paying their bills, and that is something that Be More Frank and others can do to relieve the burden just a tiny bit. It's still horrendous. You don't, there's no two ways about it. It's an awful period, and whether whether you've got money falling out of the sky or not, it's still a horrendous period. But if we can just relieve that burden, well, that is something that we can tangibly do for families. So that's why I believe very strongly that it's quite an important provision. Emotional support, just knowing that somebody out there cares and realises what you're going through. So as much as the money is a practical support, there's also that whole element of people going, oh wow, people care, and there's strangers running marathons to fundraise for families like us. And that's quite in my case, I found that really moving, that people were going to all this effort to help families like us. I kind of didn't feel worthy at the time, because we were just a normal run-of-the-mill family, and you're just not used to being in that position. However, I feel it's really important, yeah.
And what would you say is involved in running a named fund?
I think the joy of it being a named fund, certainly via the Grace Kelly Childhood Cancer Trust, because obviously I don't have experience of any others, is Grace Kelly is kind of the bedrock of what we do. So you can do as much or as little as you want. If you want to make it your full-time devotion, then probably you can do that. And if you want to dip in and dip out, because obviously you're grieving and your emotions are all over the place and all of those things going on, the joy is you can just dip in and dip out as you wish, or you can make it a fairly permanent thing. I don't know how other people run them, but for me, I've never felt any more pressure than the pressure I put on myself. And that's a really valuable thing, because I'm still 3 years on. I'm not the person I used to be, and too much pressure, I've learnt, doesn't work very well with my brain.
No.
So yes, I just love that Frank is the passion, and I can just keep going, but also dip out if maybe I'm having a really bad griefy week.
On that note, do you think running the named fund has helped you in any way?
I think for me personally, it has. I know every parent is different. I know quite obviously a lot of bereaved parents. Some of them don't want to talk about it. Some of them want to keep very busy and go back to their old normal life. So I can only, it's such a personal thing. But for me, Frank, my child, is now creating a legacy, which makes me so very, I'm still just as proud of him now as when he was alive, because to me, he lives on in a positive way. He's not just, oh, that's sad, that kid died. You know, he's not just a distant memory, because what he's achieving, even the other side of the stars, is really fantastic. And also, obviously, I get to talk about him rather than just in the past, my kid died, isn't that sad? I get to talk about him in a really positive way, because his ethos influences me personally, obviously, but also the fund going forward. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
It is, and really important for you as a family as well. To wrap it up then, have you got any sort of parting words of advice for any parent that may be considering a named fund, or just doing a bit of fundraising on the side, really? Any top tips?
I would say I'd say listen to your gut. You'll know whether it's something you want to do. You can take it very slowly and just see how it goes, see how it feels. I would say a lot of parents I know, or a lot of extended family affected by childhood cancer in one way or another, find it a really beneficial part of the process to do a bit of fundraising, whether that be via a named fund. The child doesn't have to no longer be with us. I know a lot of people do it maybe if their child was affected by childhood cancer but is now doing really well. So I'd say just listen to your gut. You'll know if you want to do it, and in that case, go for it. But you don't have to go hell for leather. You've got a lot of recovering to do as well. No matter the outcome of the child's cancer, you've got a lot of recovering to do. So just listen to your gut.
Brilliant advice. We have made it through the podcast.
Oh, I'm so proud.
A lot of pride here today. But
yes.
Thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's like I still feel I'm just me, you know.
Yeah.
So yes, it's lovely to be here.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Young me, that's the big thing.